Okay, let's dive right in. We are going to unpack the absolutely incredible story of a city that literally went from being the most dangerous place on the planet to a global symbol of hope and transformation. And hidden inside the story is a powerful secret about how real, lasting change actually works. To really get the scale of this, you have to start with this number: 381. Back in 1991, that was the homicide rate per 100,000 people in Medellin, Colombia. To put that in perspective, it was by far the highest in the world. This wasn't just a city with a crime problem, it was the world's murder capital. Now, look at this. By 2015, that number had plummeted to below 20. That's a drop of over 95%. I mean, just think about that for a second. This wasn't just a slight improvement. This was a mind-blowing, almost unbelievable turnaround that almost nobody thought was possible. So the big question is, how on earth did they do it? Was it some superhero mayor who came in and saved the day? Was there a single, brilliant master plan that fixed everything? Well, the real answer is so much more fascinating, and it's got a lesson in it for all of us. Here it is. The secret wasn't some top-down command and control order. It was a powerful concept called emergent change. It's an idea that explains how some of the most profound, deep-seated changes can happen, almost like magic. So let's get one thing straight right off the bat. There was no single document called the Medellin Safety Plan. The city's leaders weren't just chasing a specific crime statistic. Their goal was way bigger, way more ambitious. They wanted to reweave the entire social fabric of their communities and make the city more fair for everyone. And this is the core idea we need to understand. So what is emergence? Well, imagine a flock of birds or a school of fish. There's no leader telling them where to go, right? Each bird is just following a few simple rules. But when you put them all together, you get this beautiful, complex, coordinated dance. That's emergence. It's when lots of smaller, simpler actions interact and create something amazing and unexpected that's way bigger than any of the individual parts. All right, so more than the sum. That sounds great in theory, but what does it actually look like on the ground? Let's break down how a few seemingly separate ideas came together in Medellin to create something nobody could have planned for. So the city just started doing a bunch of different things, and on the surface, they seemed totally random. They're working on community policing to build trust, but they're also building this giant cable car system. They're putting these gorgeous, world-class library parks in the poorest, most forgotten neighborhoods, while also letting residents vote directly on how to spend city money. It's a whole mix of things. And here is the absolute key. These things didn't just add up. It wasn't like the good from the libraries plus the good from the cable cars equaled 2 units of good. No, no, no. These interventions started bumping into each other, interacting and multiplying each other's impact. It wasn't addition, it was synergy. And this shows you exactly how that worked. It's a classic positive feedback loop. So follow me here. The city builds the new cable cars. Suddenly, people in the isolated slums up on the hills can get downtown for jobs and school. This gives young people real alternatives to joining a gang, so the culture starts to shift and things get a little safer. Well, once things are safer, businesses feel more confident to move in and invest, creating more jobs and more opportunity. You see the cycle? Each success feeds the next one, creating this powerful upward spiral of change that starts to run on its own. Now, to really appreciate how unique and special the Medellin approach was, it really helps to put it in context. Let's compare its journey with 2 other cities that had famous turnarounds in public safety. First up, let's look at New York City in the 90s. If Medellin was all about creating these indirect, positive feedback loops through social investment, New York's approach was, well, it was much more like a direct assault. New York's strategy was famous. It was called broken windows. The theory was if you crack down hard on small stuff, graffiti, fare evasion, minor nuisances, you'll deter more serious crime. The goal was simple and explicit: get the crime numbers down. They used a data system called CompStat to deploy police aggressively. And you know what? It worked. Crime fell, and it fell fast. But it came at a price: a really deep and lasting strain on the relationship between the police and many communities. Okay, now for a totally different flavor. let's go to Singapore, a city where safety isn't something that just emerges. Oh no, it is a core feature that is designed and engineered from the very top. In Singapore, safety is basically a part of the national brand. It's baked into everything through incredibly strict laws, meticulous urban design that's built for surveillance, think cameras and bright lights everywhere, and a lot of social engineering. The result? It's one of the safest cities you could ever visit. The trade-off is pretty clear, though. It's a system built on heavy-duty state control, and there's not a lot of room for political dissent. So when you line them up like this, you can really see the different flavors in their trade-offs. New York's policing got fast results, but it created that tension. Singapore's top-down governance is super stable, but it comes at the cost of some personal freedoms. And then you have Medellin's emergent approach, which builds incredible community resilience from the ground up, but it's maybe more vulnerable to outside forces, like a big economic downturn. So what does this all mean? Which way is the best way? Well, that's the whole point. There is no single best way. You can't just copy and paste the Singapore model onto New York or the Medellin model onto Singapore. Context is absolutely everything. The right strategy is always the one that fits a city's unique history, its culture, and its challenges. But this story about Medellin is more than just an interesting history lesson. It actually gives us a whole new way to think, a kind of playbook for tackling the really messy, complex problems we all face in our own communities. So this is basically a playbook for designing for emergence. It's about thinking like a systems designer. You start by mapping out the real problem and its connections. You look for those invisible feedback loops. Then, and this is key, you stop looking for a single silver bullet. Instead, you design a portfolio of smaller, smarter interventions. And then you do something really clever. You place them together strategically to create synergy, like putting a new park next to a new transit stop. And finally, you test things. You measure, and you're always adapting. You're not scripting an outcome, you're creating the conditions for positive change to grow. So here's the thought I want to leave you with. The real lesson from Medellin is to start seeing our world differently, to stop looking at problems in isolation and start looking for the hidden connections, the unseen relationships between things. So ask yourself, what small actions, if you connected them, could start a positive feedback loop right where you live? Because finding those connections, that might just be the secret to transforming your own community.